What is up, guys? It is Stefan here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day so far. This is going to be a new series I'm going to be running while I'm driving, because frankly during my driving time is the best time that I actually can sit and chat to my phone. What you'll notice is I'm doing it hands-free, so I'm making sure that it is safe, and this is going to be covering quite a broad spectrum of topics, all within the occupational health and safety and medical world. I'm not going to be doing too much time for editing and everything, because frankly that takes a long time. I've done it before. Yes, it makes my video look pretty, but you guys lose the sense of my drive. Cool. So the first topic that I want to quickly that I'm going to start with is going to be first aid and the protocol within the first aid. Now, protocol is a plan that we're going to apply when we are looking at attending to a patient. Excuse me. When we're looking at attending to a patient, we need this plan to ensure a couple of things actually occurs. This plan, I'm going to simplify it for you, like what I'm going to do with most of my other videos, because I don't want you guys to get stuck up on technicalities and confusion and all of that stuff. So most training institutions actually applies the 3H rule: hazard, hello, help. I prefer to start with a fourth H, being history. Now, the reason why I bring in history before the hazard and everything is because the history actually allows me to prepare myself for the scene and the patients, etc., etc. So when the history is looked at, I'm going to look at a couple of things. Firstly, what is the history of the scene? By determining the history of the scene itself, I can make a determination as to what possible hazards there could be. Like if I get called to a car crash, for instance, I know that there might be broken glass, so I know I can't go out to my flip-flops, so I will quickly grab a set of closed shoes if I've got a set of closed shoes available. The other part of the history that we can have a look at is what possible injuries may I face. So if I can use the example again, if I get called out to a pedestrian being hit by a car outside of my office, and my office does hopefully have a spinal board, I can grab the spinal board before I even go to the scene. That way, once I'm at the scene, I don't need to run around like a headless chicken trying to find my equipment. Okay, I'm prepared. Your second H, and this is the H that most other training institutions starts with, is hazard. Now, the hazard is a very important element because the hazard is focused on keeping myself as well as my patient safe. The hazard element. A hazard is something that's got the potential to cause harm. Something that can cause a further injury or put you at risk of getting hurt. Now, we always say the first aid of safety comes first. It's not a very nice thing to say, but here's the even worse thing to say. One dead person is better than 2 dead people. Okay. We will never approach or go to a scene where there is a risk of us getting hurt or injured as well. I'm going to determine the hazards as I'm approaching the scene, look around, see what is there, make a logical decision as to whether I can control the hazard. Something like, if I go back to the broken glass, something like taking out the car's carpet, you know, these little mats under your feet, putting that over the broken glass, that will already reduce the risk of you or any other person getting further injured resultant from that broken glass. Just a side note, a risk is the potential for that hazard to actually cause harm or damage, if that makes sense. So we're taking that possibility, we're lowering that possibility by doing that. Something like a small fire, if you've got an extinguisher and you've got the correct extinguisher and you know how to use it, you can fairly easily control that small fire. But if that fire has already evolved to such a point where it's no longer controllable, please do not try and be a hero. You are not, what's it, Captain Incredible, Mr. Incredible, that's it. You can't resist fire. It's going to hurt you. Alright. History has it. Next one is hello. Okay, sorry, back. History, there's another history we're going to look at when we're assessing the patient. I haven't forgotten about that. Just thought I'll tell you guys. Hello. So, this is your third H. History has it hello. Hello, we are doing two things. Firstly, we are determining the patient's consciousness. Secondly, we are introducing ourselves. So what a lot of people or training academies recommend is, if the patient looks unconscious, what you're going to do is you're going to be giving a light tap on the shoulder. Now this is where my issue comes in. Doing a light tap on the shoulder like this, with my palm facing the patient, to me is a risk. And this is something I actually learned from one of my students, that explained to me the way that he would do it. And so here's a thought. If a patient was still in active connection with live electricity and I missed it under my hazard, the second I do this, I'm going to get electrically shocked. The second I get electrically shocked, my muscles here, my forearm is going to tense up, closing my hand, and then I'm going to be sitting, shaking with the patient, getting electrocuted. Alright, so what this chap that came to class by me, his train of thought, which I actually quite like, is doing what I call the butterfly technique. I can't remember what he called it. I call it the butterfly technique. We use the outside of your palm, the outside of your hand, and you tap the patient sort of like this, okay? And you use both hands, so you make like a shadow figure, dove type of thing, and you can flutter on the patient's shoulder. That way, if you hit like this and you do get shocked and your muscles tense, you are not actually gripping your patient. Alright, so if the patient is nice and awake, you can introduce yourself. Hello, my name is Stefan. I'm a qualified basic life support medic. This information provided to the patient will give the patient, to a certain degree, some calmness, some reassurance. That's what I'm looking for. Some reassurance to know that the person that is going to be assisting them has got some degree of knowledge or expertise. Alright? Please remember, anybody, lifeguards has got first aid training. If a person says they've got first aid level whatever, 1, 2, 3, basic life support, ACLS, ITLS, PQRS, whatever they've, most of those abbreviations and qualifications has got a reasonable amount of knowledge, and we've all got a scope to work within. So obviously a first aid level 2 scope differs slightly to a first aid level 1 scope, and the 3 differs from a 2 and 1, etc, etc. Okay, so that's now hello. Your fourth H is help. Now help, we covered 2 elements. First element is getting consent from the patient. May I help you? Hello, my name is Stefan. I'm a basic life support medic. May I help you? Now, the help element is a legal requirement here within South Africa. We have to get consent for every patient we treat, and there's 4 different types of consent as well. Firstly is your explicit. This is where the patient knows clearly and understands, and they are awake and up and running. Well, not running, but you get what I mean. They can even ask for help, or they flat out agree to you assisting. That's explicit. Your second one is what we call tacit. Your tacit consent is non-verbal, more body language consent. So the patient calls you, points toward the injured area. If you ask, can I help, they nod their head. That's tacit consent. They are giving you consent there as well. Alright. Third type of consent is informed consent. This is where you've explained to the patient what is wrong with them. Apologies. You've explained to the patient what is wrong with them and what you are planning on doing. Now here's a big thing with informed consent, but a lot of people don't even actually consider. If I approach a patient, I look for explicit or tacit consent, they say no, then I will be moving over to informed consent, where I'm trying to convince the patient without manipulating or pressurizing them. Something like, okay, I understand that you don't want the treatment, but you've got quite a bit of blood gushing out of the bottom of your foot. Let me please at least get the bleeding under control, and then once it's under control, I've bandaged it up nicely, then I will stop my treatment. Generally, when a person finds out the severity of their injury, they are more likely to possibly give you consent. So that's a very important consideration. Here's another important consideration with informed consent. If my patient gets to the hospital, and it turns out that it wasn't a crazy lot of blood gushing out of the bottom of their foot, it was more like a paper cut type of effect with a tiny bit of blood coming out, that nullifies that consent, because now I misinformed the patient as to the severity of their injury. Second on that, the misinformation is if I then ended up I don't know, I told the patient I'm going to be just putting a bandage on, but then I halfway through decided that I'm now going to put a tourniquet on, which first that is not allowed to do. That also nullifies it, because I didn't fulfill the agreed treatment. I went all crazy and just did my own thing. That makes sense. So that's help for the consent element. The next element on help, the next sub element of help is I need help as well. When I look at what I need help with, there's various options available here. If I'm at the office, I can ask one of my colleagues to fetch whatever, the first aid kit, to go and speak to the security manager because we've got an ambulance on the way and they need to open the boom gates. go and fetch the patient's auntie who works in the next door building type of thing. The other elements, the other options for help for us is fellow first aiders or medics, that we can get them to assist with treatments or assist with whatever we need to have assistance with. Then the third part of help for us is getting backup. Now, when I talk about backup, I am talking about getting emergency services onboarded. This is where we make the decision to call the ambulance and provide them with certain information so that they can send the appropriately qualified people to come and assist the patient and us. Just a quick point of note: within South Africa, we've got a division between private and state-owned ambulances. I know somewhere in South Africa, I can't remember where I saw, there is a privately owned fire service as well, which is fantastic, although you're going to pay for it. So within South African perspective, the government ambulances, the phone number is 10177. The unfortunate thing about this is that when we are calling the state ambulance, your waiting time in South Africa is between 2 to 5 hours for that ambulance. So yeah, you're in it, but for the long haul. You can call a private ambulance service for the instance where the patient does not have medical aid, and the patient can afford to pay the bill for the private ambulance service. Now that bill can vary. I was recently in an accident myself, and for the 4-kilometer trip from where I was lying on the road to the hospital cost us, I think it was $5,300, something like that, or 6,300, something with 300, 5 or 6,000. Then I had to be transferred from hospital A to hospital B because there was no neurosurgeon available at hospital A. The trip from hospital A to hospital B was, I think, 12 kilos, and that cost 13,000. So please just make sure, if you do decide to go private on a non-medical aid patient, that the patient can actually afford to pay that bill. Otherwise it's going to put them in financial difficulty. Alright, there's a couple of private ambulance services in the country. Not a couple, there's actually a lot. The two most prominent ambulance services with the most easily remembered numbers is Netcare 911 and ER24. They only use a 6-digit number, where most of your other ambulance services uses like a long cell phone number type of thing. I think that's, I don't know, 10, 14 digits. I don't know how long a cell phone number is. 3, 6, 10 numbers. So Netcare is 082 911. 082 911 Netcare, and ER24 is 084 124. 084 124 is ER24. Now when we call them, we're going to have to provide them with a reasonable amount of information. They're going to want to know firstly about who you are, what your phone number is, and please don't give them a cell phone number for the cell phone that's battery is on 2%, because if they need to call you back to get more feedback, or if they get lost somehow, or they're not sure about the location, you know, where you are, it's vitally important that they can actually reach you. They're going to want to know about the patient's age, the patient's gender, Unfortunately, they do ask, the private ambulance services do ask, is the patient on medical aid? Then they're going to want to know about what happened. And you should be able to explain to them exactly what is wrong with the patient and what happened. If you tell them it was a car crash, that will then allow them, if you tell them it's a car crash and the patient's trapped in the car, that will then allow them to actually dispatch the correct service. So I know Netcare, I'm not quite sure whether they still have it or whether they have it in KZN. Here where we live, I haven't seen it myself. Up in Gauteng, we used to call it a Quagga vehicle, where they've actually got extrication tools on the Netcare vehicle. So it's important to tell them what happened. Alright. Please also always ask them, also provide them with landmarks to where you are. We are 50 meters away from the Dischem, or we're 50 meters away from the Seattle Coffee Theatre. That will also just help them to get through to you quite a bit easier. Right, so the rest of the protocol, so that's now your first 4 H's. That's quite a mouthful. You see I'm already on 21 minutes. The rest of the protocol is very easily rememberable if you passed kindergarten. Because in kindergarten we get taught the alphabet, A, B, C, and the protocol we run is all the way from A to J. And what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing that in the next video, because I've already taken up 21 minutes of your time, 22 minutes of your time. I'm going to be doing that in the next video for you guys, just to focus on the treatment. At least we know up to this point where we've gotten, we are prepped for getting to the point where we're going to be assisting the patient. If you guys enjoy the contents of this video, please, I'm going to do now what every other YouTuber does. Please like, share and subscribe, hit the bell icon so that you get notifications of the next videos. My focus here is to make all of what I do as simple as possible for you. In a way that is fun. I mean, we've got to have fun with these videos. Alright, so that's it from me. I've got no catchy phrase like the other YouTubers do. I've got no little sound clips or anything. This is what you get, and you don't get upset. How's that? That's lekker. Alright guys, I'll check in the next video. Have a fantastic day. If you've got any questions, smash it into comments. If you don't understand something or you want to discuss something, I will try my best to reply to the comments when there is comments eventually. Alright, have a sharp day and we'll check you in the next one.